Good day everyone. Smile little bit and pay attention. I am sort of trying to cover a wonderful chapter which has to do something with the physical construct of a city. The topic is called the city as an artifact. Now, city is a wonderful man-made creations. It is considered an artifact because all kinds of knowledge, whether it is technological knowledge, whether it is scientific knowledge, whether it is religious knowledge, cultural knowledge, all kinds of knowledge come together to make this city. It is also important to understand this because city is laid over a landform and therefore, it always constantly engages with the relationship with nature and human being construct. Now, constantly in all my presentation I will be trying to cover and focus on the physical aspect. In order to do it, let us do a little bit of exercise. So, I have put an image of a street. If you see it very carefully, what all the physical things you can observe here. Okay. So, if we just look at it, we see there is a certain angle in which the light is falling. So, if you see it is falling diagonally from the right, the light is coming and the street is sort of worked out in such a way that the right part of the buildings are sort of shading the left part to some extent, and therefore, the street is sort of shaded in some ways. Now, let us look at it very carefully and start from looking at the ground. So, if you look at the ground, you see all of these kinds of sort of activities, sort of human beings standing, scooters parked. You see all of these people sort of walking around, you see people moving around. That's the way in which cities, that's the way in which the street is operating. Okay. Now, if we go little bit towards the edge, then we see, if you observe very carefully, there are certain kinds of plains which are sort of there all around. Now, if we go and look at the vertical side of the street, then we see that there are series of all these kinds of sort of small sort of units which are sort of coming together in some way. If we observe one of them, then we see that there is some way in which a lady is standing and sort of trying to communicate. There are openings all around. There are series of all these sort of advertisements which are sort of put across. You see certain places there are services that are sort of put across, there are lightings which are sort of put across. You see there are places where awnings are sort of coming out, maybe here or sort of. So, if we just start observing the horizontal and the vertical character of the street, we find there are many ways in which it is trying to sort of communicate, whether it is trying to communicate from inside to outside, or whether it is trying to sort of use the horizontal space of the street and how it is sort of connected to the edge conditions. Now, we can further keep on observing like this till we at least have 100 observation about the street, and unless we are not able to do it, we will not be able to understand what is the physical construct of the street, which is the focus of the lecture, is how do we understand the physical parameters. It is also important to understand that sometimes we get a condition, unlike the earlier condition where we were looking from human eye sort of perspective. This is a condition where we are looking from the top. There seems to be a similarity in the way in which the sort of streets are laid out. Still they are in different parts of the world, and the experience might be similar, might be different. One needs to travel and figure out that. Which means that earlier when we were trying to talk in the first slide about the street, we were trying to talk about the way it connects from inside out or the way people are using. It had to do something with the manner in which one experienced the city. But it is extremely important to understand that it is the physical construct that in relation to experience, and therefore, there is a back and forth relationship between the two, and they are not separate, they are one. However, in this sort of presentation, I will focus largely on the physical aspect of the city, and I will try and work as much as possible to hold on to that. Have you ever thought, how did our first ancestors live? Where did they live? How did they started a community life? Where did they started their community living? Was it a village, a small cluster of dwelling, or was it something else which we find difficult to define? What were the critical forces that led to the human made organized forms of living? How did they evolve and worked out such an elaborate ways to organize their dwellings, institutions, movement and natural resources? Which means, what were the kind of knowledge that were existing there in order to do it? What were the forces that were trying to sort of shape it? All of these are important in order to understand it. Therefore, what would be the kind of tools that one would require in order to understand these physical forms is what we will be sort of talking about. I want to quote here Spyro Kostov. The most enduring feature of the city is its physical build, which remains with remarkable persistence, gaining increments that are responsive to the most recent economic demand and reflective of the latest stylistic vogue, but conserving evidence of past urban culture for present and future generations. So, each generation has certain kind of a knowledge. It with its knowledge tries to construct the physical form of the city, and then it passes on to the next generation. It again does the same thing. So, in some way there is certain kind of continuity, but there are also constant transformation based on the levels of the knowledge that people have at that particular time in the history. The structure of the presentation for today would be, what are the processes involved in the origin of a city. So, whether we were talking about initially whether people were hunting and gathering, or whether it was sort of process of organized form of agriculture, or whether it was trade etc., that led to the rise of the city. Then we will also be talking about what is a city. So, we will take some sort of typical features that would sort of constitute what a city would be. How do a city evolve? So, what are the ways in which city has evolved? Maybe city was a small sort of a village somewhere in time, and gradually with coming of some institution, or maybe coming of some sort of trade, it gradually started expanding. Later maybe some king or some local ruler started sort of working around it, and gradually it sort of reached an important level. So, there are various parameters that works on the evolution of the city. It is not one, it could be political, it could be cultural, it could be social, it could be economic, but all of these are in relation to the way in which we sort of live with nature. Then I would be talking about what are the various forms of a city. So, it could be morphological forms like square, circle, linear, accretive, or it could also be based on the primary role that the city is supposed to function, or it was functioning in the history, whether it is center of knowledge or whether it is center of cosmo-religious abstracts. So, these are the kind of things which I would be talking about. Then the other thing which I would be talking about is, how do we understand the physical form of a city, which means the tool that urban design needs to sort of use, or what is city made of. So, for example, our body is made out of different physical parts, the hand, the eyes, the nose, the head, the legs. Similarly, a city is made out of parts, sometimes we call it elements, and it is very important to understand it, and that is what would be one of the major focus, and that will sort of constitute the grammar of understanding a city. The sixth one I would be covering is, how do we read the physical form of a city, is another very important thing. Then the last one, how can we represent the physical form of a city, where I would be taking various kinds of drawings, representation, and trying to talk about how drawing is a means of communication. So, initially in the beginning of the civilizations, human history is sort of constructed of hunting and gathering as a process. So, people were constantly moving from one place to another in search for food, water, security, and therefore, the nature of settlement that emerged was temporal. So, they were not fixed, but sort of they kept on moving from one place to another. based on season or based on what time of the year they are sort of traveling around. Slowly, between 8,000 and 10,000 years ago, systematic cultivation of plants and the domestication of animals allowed for more permanent settlements, which resulted into a shift from the nomadic way of life. So, what started happening was gradually people understood how to sort of produce agriculture products for consumption, and therefore, gradually it started shifting from hunter gathering to a sort of more settled life. And when it started happening, then the forests were sort of started clearing up, and sort of there were tools that were developed in order to practice agriculture. That was the beginning of the first settlements. They were little bit based on agriculture or largely based on agriculture, and the settlements were still very primitive in nature. So, the various factors that affected earlier settlements included proximity to the fertile land, so that they could do agriculture, surplus production, shifting of economy from agriculture to trade, proximity to trade routes both land and water, security. So, all of these factors started or sort of resulted into the rise of sort of cities. A good example could be earlier cities like Mohenjo-daro, where the city was organized on gridiron. There were various kinds of institutional buildings like storages, granaries, bathhouses, etc., that were work that gave the first hint of urban living. So, what were the process that was involved? So, the first one was exchange of goods. So, the trade emerged. Then development of various other specialized skills and division of labor. So, somebody was working on say shipbuilding, somebody was working on some equipments for agriculture produce, somebody was just working on say armors or sort of other defense systems. It also resulted in certain kind of densification. So, there were group of people that were sort of coming from different parts, having different skills, and started settling down. Emergence of political, social and religious order in a society. The moment grouping started happening, there needs to be some way in which certain kind of ordering would have taken place in the society, and therefore, all these institutions started working together or started emerging. So, that was the first formative origins of sort of this kind of a system. Then settling of people from various belief system. So, since people were coming from different parts, so there were different kinds of belief systems that were sort of practiced, and all of them started coming together. The result of which was emergence of exchange based institutions. Record keeping was one of the important process that started taking place. Specialized place based on available skills, usually close grouping of buildings, emergence of definite territorial claims over space, clearance of forest for settlement. Then organized forms of institution, whether it was granary, whether it was a palace, or whether it was bathhouse, etc. So, there was some way in which the system started organized. The system was organized, which gave structuring to the settlement. Then diversity of belief system, as I talked later. So, there were many kinds of belief systems that came together. So, as Spiro Kostov talks, the city is one of the most remarkable, one of the most enduring of human artifact and human institutions. Its fascination is inevitable. Its study is both duty and homage. It's a very important statement, because it carries with itself vast and profound amount of knowledge. Spiro Kostov has also given at least few points about what constituted the earlier cities. So, let me sort of talk one by one about it. A place where there is a certain degree of coming together of people. The size of the population may vary depending on context and time. So, the first important criteria for understanding a city is that at least certain grouping of people takes place. Therefore, density to some extent becomes an important criteria. It exists in relation to other towns, which means there are sort of hierarchical relationship of the town. There might be some bigger towns, some smaller towns, and they are dependent on each other. It is also dependent on countryside to feed it. So, in some way the countryside is dependent on the city, and the city is dependent on the countryside, and therefore, there is a mutual relationship between the two, and each of them are inseparable in some way. It is also dependent on countryside to feed, that I have talked about it. It is a place of specialized differentiation of work which creates social hierarchies. It is an agglomeration of people of various skills, faith and purpose. As I have earlier talked about it, that the moment many people come and moment you get surplus produce, not everyone has to involve themselves in agriculture, which means there are many other things which sort of they have to involve in order to organize themselves, and therefore, some sort of skills are related to organizing it or related to say political systems, some are related to manufacturing, etc., etc. There are certain boundary explicit or notional in order for a city to operate. So, if you sort of have a look at earlier cities, either there was some kind of a boundary, whether it was natural or whether it was man made. So, there was an attempt to make it notional in terms of maybe water system or putting at a highland or something like that, or it was very definite. Cities are places having some dominant processes favored by trade or presence of rulers, or strategically located in a landscape. Record keeping, writing is an essential part of the city. The writing allows codes to be part of a document. Cities are places distinguished by presence of some monuments. So, you might realize that the moment all kinds of organized system, whether it is trade, whether it is political system, religious systems, all kinds of orders starts working within the city, it requires certain sizes of the building. So, it is not at a level of dwelling that everything can occur. Therefore, sometimes for example, in case of storage of granaries or storage of grains, you may require large sort of houses where things could be stored, and therefore, different sizes and scales of buildings started emerging, and therefore, some sense of monumentality also started emerging with that. Cities are places distinguished by presence of some monuments, which also means that sometimes the palace was an important structuring idea, sometimes the temple was an important structuring idea. Cities are places made up by buildings and people, which is something which is always true. Okay, now it is important to look at the 9 diagrams which Spiro Kostev drew in order to talk about the characteristics of a city. So, first he talks about, in the first diagram, energized crowding. So, if you look at this diagram very carefully, you will realize that sort of a city is a place where sort of large amount of people come together as compared to say smaller cities or maybe as compared to rural areas. The second part he talks about is an urban cluster. So, city is not independent, it is also related to other small sort of cities. So, if we compare a city of Ahmedabad, which is sort of a larger city, then there would be say smaller cities like Nadiad or Anand or Limdi, which would be sort of connected to it, and in some way they would be dependent on it. The third, he talks about the physical circumscription. So, what he means is some way, either in an explicit way or in a sort of notional way, some kind of a boundary exists. However, in the present circumstance, in the way in which cities are growing, it is challenging in some way, but it is important to understand that this becomes an important criteria to understand it. The fourth one, he talks about differentiation of uses. So, it may be city where different parts of the city are sort of functioning differently, yet coming up together as a whole. Say for example, there would be parts of a city where there would be say administrative buildings, some parts of the city where there would be specialized market, but it would also mean different kinds of knowledge forms, different ways of living are all coming together as a part of a city. City also means an urban resource. So, for example, the manner in which you create surplus, it allows various kinds of other urban resources to develop, which makes city very important. The other important criteria he talks about is a written record. So, one of the important criteria which I have also talked about earlier is the record keeping as an important criteria, because it allows good governance, it allows to sort of relate, to understand sort of what happened earlier, what is happening now, and analyze it and sort of move it forward. it is also talking about relationship to countryside. So, there is a relationship between city and the countryside. So, in some way the countryside feeds the city, and but also the countryside is dependent on the city. He also talks about monumental framework. So, if you look at the diagram, then you might realize there are some monumental buildings which are all around, within which rest of the buildings are there. So, if you observe very carefully the presence of a tower or the presence of a large sort of institution, or if you observe carefully some domical structure here, all shows an important sort of structuring idea of a city. And the last, he talks about building and people. Of course, city is all about building and people, how sort of a building is inhabited by people, how people use the space, how people use the city, etc. Other very critical definition or sort of idea which is there is what is urban, and it is very difficult to define urban. There has been many ways in which people have tried to define urban. It could be from the physical perspective, it could be from a social perspective, it could be from a cultural perspective. So, for example, Max Weber defines cities by the existence of an established market system, economically defined. The city is a settlement, the inhabitants of which live primarily of trade and commerce rather than agriculture. So, this is one of the first earlier definition, 1958. A city is a milieu in which strangers are likely to meet, Richard Sennett in 1907. So, cities in some sense gives sort of anonymity. So, not all the time people are familiar to each other in a city. Manuel Castells gives a sociological definition of a city, a permanent localization relatively large and dense of socially heterogeneous individuals that also constitute a city. Now, let us talk about little bit about city forms and classification of city. Now, in case of India, there has been several attempts, and many of them have tried to sort of define it chronologically. So, early towns, temple towns, medieval towns, colonial towns. Now, each of them had certain characteristics. Now, all of these we will discuss later part of our presentation, but I thought that I should bring this out simply because there is not one single way to classify a city. One could classify in various other ways, and for this study we are sort of concentrating more on the physical construct, and therefore, in this sense city as a diagram we are focusing on morphological characteristics of the city, which could be say a circle, which means city as a diagram is sort of a notional circle or a formal circle. It could also be characteristics of a grid. So, it sort of is organized orthogonally, where a unit sort of repeats in some way, and then that makes a city. City is also sometimes sort of as a shape, it is square or rectangle, sometimes it is linear. So, if a city is sort of flowing or a city is sort of around a river, sometimes it could be linear, or it also depends on certain other landscape conditions, or it could also be designed in some way that it gives a sense of linearity. City could also be accretive. So, over a period of time it grows and sort of creates dense cluster. It could also be from the perspective, the manner in which it sits in a landscape and negotiate with the landscape. The other way to classify would be that the emergent form based on the primary role, which could be social, religious, political, cultural or economic conditions. For now, we will take one example in detail and try and understand from a perspective of geomorphology a city. So, I have taken one example, and this is city of Patna I have taken as an example to talk about how important it is to understand city from a geomorphological point of view. You can take many other examples of your own city and try and understand it. So, if you observe very carefully, then you see that the city of Patna is actually here located, and it is a riverine sort of city where one river Son meets Ganges here, then there is another river Ghagra here, there is one river Gandak which is coming from Nepal, and there is other two rivers Punpun and Son which is coming from south of Bihar. So, what it was there, what it sort of meant was this city was, at least during the time of its inception, was very well connected with the inland navigation and trade. So, if you now observe the topography of the city, then to the left you will find that the dark patches are the areas which are highland, and as you go down towards the river Punpun from the Ganges, you will find that it is almost like a saucer shape sort of, and therefore, it has a tendency to accumulate water. Now, what it does is, to the right is another diagram which I have tried to show you, is very clearly separating the highlands from the lowland, or separating the place where water accumulates to the place where you have land formation. Now, the lower portion is also a place where the water accumulates and sort of gradually evaporates over a period of time, and then slowly, depending on the season, sometimes the landform gets out and you can do agriculture, otherwise largely it remains underwater. So, I have shown a better drawing of it in order to sort of make it clearer. Also, if you will find to the right side, then you will see that there is a straight line which is coming here. Now, this is almost like a bunding, which was an attempt to stop water from going to the highland. So, this is sort of a larger right now the network which gives you all the blue lines as water and all the black as the movement network. If we go little bit to the history, you might realize that the city of Patna was actually the city of Patliputra. You may also realize that the city was formed by Ajatasattu. He shifted his capital from Magad to Patna, and one of the region was to the north of it was Lichavi, and Lichavi was a very rich city state, and from there they wanted to capture Lichavi, because by doing that they would have captured the trade conditions which were there, and that was one of the reason of sort of putting or sort of establishing the city of Patliputra. Of course, I have also tried to show many of the dotted sort of dots which says that these are the excavated sites of Patliputra. Now, there are historians and there are sort of geologists who differ on what happened exactly, but one of the predominant view is that the landform was formed because this kind of a saucer shape was formed because the old zone or the current zone started gradually shifting its course, and therefore, it left the saucer shape with highlands to the left, and therefore, it becomes very important to understand land water relationship, and it also is important to understand therefore, the city grew linearly because there was no other way to grow. And so, I have just put down now sort of the medieval city of Patna under Sesa Suri 1545. If you observe very carefully, there is sort of one route sort of which is sort of going here. This is Paschim Darwaja, that is Purab Darwaja, and rest of them are sort of more or less accretive in nature. So, you will not find, or it will be very difficult for you to find orthogonal streets. Most of them would be sort of winding around and moving and sort of getting lost in some cul-de-sacs, etc. So, as I told you that the city grew linearly. So, this is 1705. Patna as a Azimabad, it used to be called during Mughals because Azim Shah used to rule from there. And gradually then if you see with the colonial influence, the first thing you will see emergence of a Maidan. It was also important that during the colonial rule, this city was an important trade center for trading of opium, and it is here that if you sort of recall your history of opium war. So, it was here from where it was supplied to Nepal and then to China, and therefore, many kinds of institutions that grew was actually storing opium. But later with the colonial imprint, you will find Maidan and other important sort of bungalow type sort of houses which emerged, and that you will see at the down part where there are lot of open space are actually government quarters. So, this is the current situation of Patna. The important thing here to understand is still if you look at to the right, there are very few settlements happening, and if you see the real picture even today, to the right you see the lowland. So, you see a image from the lowland to a highland, and it has still remained since thousands of years almost the same. So, thank you. I have tried to cover some part of city as an artifact. I tried to cover what is a city, how did the city emerge, how do you classify the city, what are the various forms of the city to some extent. Then I took one example, an example of a condition of geomorphology, and I have tried to explain Patna as a case, but I would insist that you should take one example on your own and try and analyze it, maybe your own city, and how did this city evolve. Why is it important to understand the relationship of a city to something which is physical, which was always existing, the landform, and sort of that is how I will conclude the first part. Thank you.